Call to order the August. Got it. No, I'm getting feedback. Sorry. But I think I'm good now. The August 16th Verona City Council meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Journey.
Here.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Cole.
Here.
Alderperson Ariki.
Here.
Alderperson Touche.
Present.
Alderperson Gaskell is absent and excused.
Thank you. Next up, we will have public comment. If anyone from the public would like to speak, and if you could sign in and then also give your name and address, that would be wonderful as well.
Absolutely, thank you. This will be brief. My name is Lori Lubinsky. My address is 1217 Redan, Verona. I'm an attorney. I represent the school district. We're here on agenda item 11A of your agenda is a closed session discussion, and I want to just briefly comment on that. First of all, I want to, on behalf of the school district, I want to thank the city. I want to thank the city staff. We had a very productive meeting a week or 10 days ago, and we had good collaboration at that meeting. So I wanted to start by thanking the city for the dialogue and the collaboration that continues and is ongoing. We believe that through that cooperation, through communication, that we've got a proposal that you'll be considering tonight that resolves the issue of the second access point. You'll be considering that, and I believe that will be presented to you. I just want to remind you that this high school that's being built is one of the great pillars of this community. It's going to attract business. There's going to be people coming from throughout the state for athletic competitions, for other events that's going to draw to your great city things that people need, accommodations, food, lodging, gas, etc. And so that's why we need to work together. And the school board has a proposal that you're going to consider that I believe will allow both the school and the city to work collaboratively to resolve the outstanding issue, which is the second access point. But to get there, we need your help, and that's why we're here. That's why you're going to be considering it tonight. The information exchange, I wanted to comment briefly on that. The city did ask for some information. You'll probably be briefed on that in closed session. The school district spent quite a bit of time actually preparing its response to that, and so we would encourage you to look closely at that information because I think it does go to why we're at the point we're at and why the school board is proposing what it is. If you approve the concept of the second access point, then that will begin the process of further dialogue. And I can tell you I've been involved only for a short period of time, like some of you who've joined the city council recently. So I don't have the historic background, but I can tell you in the 1 month or maybe 6 weeks that I've been involved, I've been really happy with the amount of dialogue and discussion that's going on. There is urgency. I know you know that. I'm not going to tell you that already. But we do need a decision, and we need it now. And that's my last point, and that is this. The school district just received bids for the project, I believe earlier this week or last week. The school board has a deadline to make a decision, and that's September 24th. They're going to need to decide the scope of the project of the high school and its campus area, to include the features, including the pool and the athletic fields, et cetera. And so that's where that's the deadline we're working towards. We've got lots of work to do between now and then, no doubt, but we just want some direction from you is all we're seeking. And so that's it. I just want to thank you for your attention and just emphasize that we do want to work collaboratively with you, but we do need to move forward quickly. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Great. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? I'll let everyone have a chance, so you don't have to worry about it. No, it's however you guys want to.
I'll start over. Good evening. I'm Tom Mathias. I live off of Shady Oak Lane in the town of Verona, and tonight I'm have a few comments on the proposed annexation in the north neighborhood. The development seems fine, so I'm not opposed to the development. It's just the timing that, as a town resident, I have a few comments about. The proposed annexation consists of approximately 200 acres. It's 540s. There are 4 40s coming in off of Highway M and then 140 to the north. And so as the development is proposed, the westernmost 40 and the northernmost 40 may not be developed for several years or for an indefinite period of time. That means they would continue to have their current use for an indefinite number of years, so the city during that period would benefit from development that has been managed by the town. So from a city perspective, this may not seem like a bad idea, but it seems hard to make an equity argument to support this. You know, the city won't necessarily be providing roads to those areas or many services to those areas, so from a fairness perspective, I would question the equity of doing that. The annexation does include 5 years of tax payments to the town, but those 5 years would be at whatever point the annexation was done. So the question is, when should the clock start on those 5 years of payments? Under the intergovernmental agreement between the city and town, section 4.06 says, provide a full range of urban services available to areas of town annexed to the city. And under that section, it says municipal sewer and water, stormwater, and transportation infrastructure will be timely constructed by the city to serve new urban development within the city growth area. So, you know, it's open to interpretation what timely development is, but I would argue, so if you do it within 1 year or maybe 2 years, that would be timely. But if you're waiting 3 or 4 or 5 years, then it's harder to argue that that is timely development. So then a couple comments about city services, not really related to the town, but just things I noticed. There are 2 residences in that area. They're along Highway PD. So one question would be about providing police service to those areas. I saw the report on the proposed annexation, and there's nothing in there about police response times to those areas. They're not next to any other city houses. To get there, police might have to go up to Highway M, and over the next few years, that's under construction. So there's one question I would ask you to consider about response times and public safety in terms of the environment. It seems fairly efficient for the city to serve 2 residences on Highway PD. Every week, the city would be having trash pickup go out to Highway PD. Every other week, recycling pickup. The town already has trash and recycling along Highway PD. In addition, the city might be providing brush pickup and leaf pickup for that area, which would also be inefficient. My suggestion would be to please consider asking the developer to submit an annexation request that excludes the parcels in the west and north 40s. Concurrently with that annexation request, the developer would be able to proceed with a preliminary plat work with the city. So there shouldn't be any delay for what the developer is planning, and then annexation of the west and north 40s could be requested when the developer is ready to proceed with development in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone from the public wishes to speak. You got a clear shot, so.
I can hear you very well. I'm getting old. Hi. My name's Ron Nagel. I live at 208 Knoll Way. I am an 11-year resident of this community. Prior to that, I lived in Fitchburg, where I served that community on numerous committees. So I know that spending your evenings in a council room isn't very fun. However, the rules that you craft benefit our entire community. And once that hard work is done, the hard work that you guys do, those rules and ordinances need to be enforced equally and fully. They can't just be tools that we pull out of a toolbox as needed. Nor can they be ignored. The rules are the rules, the ordinances are the ordinances. The owner of 212 Knoll Way has ignored our rules and ordinances for years. So our neighborhood has come together to rectify this problem for the betterment of our community. I hope that we can have a fruitful discussion tonight about the timely enforcement of our rules and ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak?
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor Diaz, I'm Patricia Anderson. I'm the trustee of the property at 214 Knoll Way, adjacent to 212. I've been working with Mr. Nagel on the situation that's going on our street. And as previously presented to you by your city administrator in an email that he was supposed to have sent you, regarding the petition that the members of the street of Knoll Way filed. I also spoke to him on August 1st and informed him that this has gone on long enough, 4 years. We have creeping Jenny, we have burdocks, we have sticky plants, we have all sorts of things. No one in the administration, public works, or the building inspection departments will return our calls in a timely manner, which would be 24 hours. Or for that matter, to look into what's going on. We have ordinances, as Mr. Nagel pointed out to you, and every one of you should read them, or at least have knowledge where to find something in the ordinance book. If you don't, I'll be more than glad after 30 years of working for the city of Verona. We're constantly battling bull thistles, burdocks, creeping Jenny, other noxious weeds from the property, all overgrown trees hanging on the power lines, hanging on the phone lines, and causing other neighbors to be without power. Our yard is half full of creeping Jenny, and if you pulled up the creeping Jenny, there's nothing underneath. It kills everything. You can't invite anyone into your own backyard because it's obnoxious. It is very, very poorly taken care of. Get out of your vehicle. As I understand, only one of you did, and that was Mrs. Journey. She stopped and went back there and looked at it. She has eyesight knowledge of it. The rest of you can walk part way up and see it. Ironically enough, today, some lawn care company came in and cleaned it out. Today, of all days. Now, we've been looking at this for 4 years. Last year, Maple Leaf came in, stripped it down to the dirt. Didn't take care of the burdocks, the bull thistles, or any of the other weeds in the backyard. We've tried to keep our properties up, both Mr. Sweeney on the south side and my daughter on the other side. This has gone on long enough. You people need to get into your ordinance books. This gentleman is renting out rooms to people. There is in and out traffic. There has been weightlifting, cross-belts, or CrossFit operations going there, and nobody seems to care. But when the barbell hits the floor, and wakes you on the opposite end of the room or the opposite end of your house, something's wrong. I can point out anything to you in the ordinance books you want to know. The time has come for you elected officials to look at yourselves and your staff and instruct them to abide by them. If they don't know where to find them, then maybe you can help find them. Then you'll both know where they are in the ordinance book, and you'll know enough to enforce them. Either that, or we need to look over the whole council and staff of this city. I know it's changing times, and I have no problem with that. I've changed with the times in the last few years, and I've changed with my constituents that I represented when I was in your position. It is your responsibilities as leaders of this community to take charge and enforce your ordinances. Take a look at your staff who is not enforcing their ordinances or who is not replying to people who have complaints. We shouldn't have to repeatedly come in here. That's why you took these positions. You were elected for the people, by the people, and of the people. Thank you.
We are, excuse me, we are still in public comment, so if anyone from the public wishes to speak, now would be the time.
My name is Al Grube. I live at 209 Noel Way. This property has been an eyesore since I've lived on that street since 1991. It seems like with every successive property owner that comes in there, when it changes hands, there's some agreement, I'm going to do worse than the guy before me. And this guy has hit the top of the charts. Not only is the home in complete disrepair, this business of renting out your home, we're not an apartment complex. Do you think for 1 minute he's reporting this as income on his taxes? That's tax evasion, folks. And you're supporting it by allowing this to go on. Please do something. The rest of us keep our homes up. He's hurting our property values to a great degree. And something needs to be done here. Thank you.
We are still in the public comment phase, so if anyone wants to speak, make a public comment, now would be the time.
Oh, I'm supposed to write stuff. That's cool. Hi, I'm Carl Hubbard. I'm at 206 Knoll Way. I live next to Mr. Nagel, and then 2 houses down from Leo, and 3 houses down from there. I just moved in almost a year from now. Year ago. Not in the future. That'd be cool, though. We're new homeowners, me and my wife. We have issues with our lawn, too. We have some creeping Charlie. We have a fence we just put up. But we try our best. Because when you live in a community, it's a responsibility to do the best for those people around you. I understand people can do what they want with their property, but when it becomes an issue for those around you, that's not taking care of your community at all, right? Everyone is here today, especially all of you, because you care about this city, right? So do we. And that means caring for the people in it, like Leo and Ron. Thanks.
Thank you. We are still in the public comment hearing, or portion of the meeting, so if anyone would like to speak or make a public comment. To sign in? Yeah.
Come on, somebody.
In the meantime, if anyone else would like to speak, now would be the time. Last chance for anyone from the public to speak.
I have a question. Will this be put on any agenda further on?
We're going to talk about it during the administrator's report, and then Jeff's going to get back to people, and then we'll see. So, questions will get answered. If there's no more public comment, we will move on to the item 5, approval of minutes from the July 23rd, 2018 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, motions on the minutes?
I would like to have the minutes reflect that regarding resolution number R18-038, approving the general development plan for 102-104 Lincoln Street, that please record me as an aye on that roll call vote.
All right, I think I'm okay. Any other questions, corrections, or motions on the minute? We will need a motion at some point, or it's going to be a long meeting.
Move approval.
Second. Can I ask a question? Move approval with the corrections offered by Alder Journey?
Yes, move approval with the corrections offered by Alder Journey.
Yes. Motion by Alder Cole, seconded by Alder Rieke. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next up, we will have mayor's business. I just got one thing. Election of the Common Council President. With the resignation of Alder Doyle, that position is open. So the floor is open for nominations. Alder Cole.
I'd like to nominate Alder Gaskell for Common Council President.
Nomination for Alder Gaskell. Are there any other nominations?
Nominate Alder Rieke.
No. Nomination for Alder Rieke. Any other nominations? We'll do a roll call vote for council president. Seeing none, I will leave it to the clerk to call the roll.
Alder Touche. Alder Cronin.
Gaskell.
Alder Journey.
Gaskell.
Alder Kemp. Alder Cole.
Gaskell.
Alder Rieke.
Rieke.
We have a tie.
We have a tie. I mean, because, of course. Would anyone like to offer further nominations or make comments on who they think would make a good council president? Alder Kemp?
I think either individual would do fine in this position. Heather and Evan have the most experience on the council. I know Sarah or Heather would do a good job. That's my comment at this time.
Anyone else? Alder Rieke?
I neglected to respond to Alder Gaskell asking if I would like to be council president last week, and just did so today. So we didn't speak about it at all. So I just wanted to say that she asked if I would be interested prior to today.
Okay. What I'm hearing is that we have a tie right now. We have one Alder absent. I think we can go 2 more weeks without a council president, and we'll just get it resolved. Alder Touche.
I'm a little nervous about the backroom conversations about this, actually.
Okay.
I wasn't invited to this, thankfully, but I just want to remind the council that we really can't have conversations about voting and who we're going to vote for and all that other stuff amongst ourselves. So I mean, we really need to be careful. So I don't know much other than what Heather just told us, but I think we all need to be really careful, you know, having back room quorums. Thank you.
Yeah. Point well taken. Yeah, you should be careful you're not making a majority or a blocking quorum. Alder Rigi?
Yes, I definitely agree, and that's the only person that I talked to. And I didn't even talk to her. I didn't really respond. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you for the clarification. With that, seeing no other, unless someone has a better suggestion, we're going to put on the agenda for the next council meeting. All right. We have no resolution. Next up, we will have item 7, announcements. Anyone on the council have announcements? Oh, Alder Kemp.
Yes, I wanted to take the time to announce, I believe that the Classic that had a fire earlier this year will be reopening on August 21st. So I wanted to make that announcement to the general public. They've gone through quite a bit, losing business this summer. So if anyone would like to go out and support them, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements from the council? Seeing none, we will have the administrator's report next. Mr. McCorsky.
Thank you. As far as the comments that were provided in public comment period, I have provided a list of the actions that the building inspections department took in 2017-2018. It kind of shows from when the first complaint was identified at 212 Noel Way. As far as our employees that were here at the time, it was 5/25/17. Just to let you know that our building inspectors, Ken Robers, was hired in January of 2017, and Mike Jasek was hired in May of 2017. So if situations were going on longer than that, it was only based on what they would probably be seeing in the iWorks software that identifies all the complaints, and some of the things that were brought up as far as CrossFit or businesses, I think were prior to that. The main complaints that we received in May of last year were tall grass and weeds, and we started to deal with that. It took longer than expected to communicate with the property owner, get new staff dealing with this situation, but by August we had the tall grass taken care of. We expected to do the weeds at the same time. There was a dog kenneled in the backyard we were sensitive to. We waited until that dog was removed. By that time, the consultant, Maple Leaf, said, well, it doesn't pay to spray the weeds. Do it in the spring when it's... And unfortunately, early spring, it wasn't done. That was probably our fault. We didn't pursue that at that time. But when we did find out that the weeds weren't sprayed, we then contacted property owner and had a consultant spray the weeds twice, the last one being the 9th of August. Since then, the property owner has hired a professional lawn service, which throughout this whole period we were requesting him to do. We were trying to, at every step, I think the property owner was trying to do certain things, and we gave him a little bit of time to do those things. Unfortunately, they weren't getting done, so that's what forced the city to hire the contractor and take down the tall grass last August. Same thing now. He wasn't dealing with the weeds in early spring, so we took care of that. and we're gonna continue to do that on a case-by-case basis. If the grass reaches 8 inches or the weeds are over 8 inches, we will contact him and, you know, force this issue a lot faster than we have in the past. And I have provided a couple before and after pictures, but I think going through this whole process, I think now the property owner understands that he needs to maintain his lawn and his flower areas, garden areas. As far as the renter part, I have contacted Dane County, Madison-Dane County Public Health. That's the agency that manages or inspects and does an annual inspection of properties that deal with short-term rentals. Short-term rentals or tourism home units are legal as long as they go through the process. I'm waiting for them to contact me about what they found out. The city does not have an ordinance, but we have been looking at drafting an ordinance for council's review that would allow short-term rentals to have a city license, and then room tax would be collected from them, similar to hotels and motels. You know, we are following up on that as well. So if there are any questions before I go on to the other parts of Minister's report.
I have 2 quick questions, and then I'll call on people on the council. I guess one is the contractor to mow the grass. Is that do you have evidence that it's an ongoing contract?
No, but I've asked for that information.
Okay.
And I hope to get that. You know, unfortunately, he said it was going to be done yesterday. I think it was the rain or something else. Called me late yesterday, said tomorrow morning for sure, and that did come through this morning. I went through and saw that they were working on that on the property. We need to make sure we get that evidence that it's being maintained on a long-term basis.
And my second question is then, going forward, do you feel you have the tools and a plan to keep the situation in hand?
I do for this property. We do. I think what we want to try to do is, you know, the ordinance actually has it says Public Works Department would go out and take tall grass down. I think what we need to do is possibly look at the ordinance, see if there's an opportunity to not only take care of the situation, but you know, maybe allow a fine or a citation when we have to take that step to bring in a consultant. If a majority of the people in the city didn't deal with their lawns, we would be basically contracting or trying to deal with a lot of people's lawn situations, contracting and managing them. So it would be best to have a citation or a fee available that we can not only deal with the situation, but have some kind of a penalty as well.
Thank you. Alder Kemp and then Alder Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. First of all, it sounds like I'm concerned about the length of time that some of the neighbors in that neighborhood have had to unfortunately deal with this. I actually drove past the property earlier this week and got out and did take a look at it. When we have someone come in and do this because someone's being essentially negligent, is the city paying that bill, or are we then billing the individual homeowner?
It's
just 1 second.
I just want to remind the council that this item is not on the agenda, and so I mean I think it's perfectly reasonable to have it if you want to place it on the agenda and have a discussion and answer questions like Alder Kemp had identified. And the administrator's report is always appropriate too, but that's essentially for sharing information with the public. If we're gonna start to get into a discussion on this
Ordinances?
topic, we should, yeah, on ordinances and how we enforce them and what tools we have. I think that's an appropriate, item for a future, council meeting, I would suggest.
Thank you for keeping us on track, and it sounds like we do need to discuss our ordinances, so that'll be on a future agenda.
If the property owner does not pay the invoice, it goes onto his tax bill, or their tax bill.
You have the proper ordinances, Mr. Kemp.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, so it's Title 8, Section 1, subsection 1, subsection 6, the length of lawn and grasses. So it's, I mean, they're plain black and white. I actually read it when I first spoke with, I got the emails and reviewed it. So it's pretty clear. I do think, though, that we could definitely review it. I'm just troubled by some of the things that I'm hearing from your neighborhood.
Look under the section that has residential 1 in it. It will tell you that renters are not allowed. And do not provide a ordinance book for the audience to be able to look at.
Anything further, Alder Kemp?
No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're not in court. Alder Cole, do you have anything that won't
I'll
get us
just
in
hold
legal?
mine until we put it on the agenda.
Okay. Any further questions on this topic, or? Okay. Continue with the administrator's report.
Sure. Wanted to let council know there is 1 seat available for the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District. That is represented by Dane County Cities and Villages Association. If you're interested in being a member of the Board of Commissioners for MMSD, contact the mayor. Mayor can make a request to Dane County Cities and Villages to provide your name as a nominee for that board. Nominations deadline is Friday, September 14th at 5 o'clock. And then the DCCVA membership meeting will be September 19th, where they'll take up that action. Wanted to update council. Next week we'll be kicking off the first meeting of an employee wellness team. This team is made up of employees of different departments that we'll be looking at what our wellness benefits are right now through our health program, encourage employees' participation in those programs, identify new programs, projects, and activities to hopefully improve the wellness of the city of Verona employees, and look at possibly future benefits that will help improve the wellness of the employees. I don't know if the engineer was going to take this on, but I thought I'd give you an update on some of the road closures that are coming up. This weekend, once again, County M will be shut down from McKee Road to Midtown Road. That'll be starting Friday, August 17th at 9 o'clock to 7 a.m. Saturday, August 18th. So that part of County M will not be available, only for local traffic. Throughout the rest of the year and next year till October, County M north across country will have blitz closures. Basically what we've been seeing over the last couple weekends, they'll be closed or closures, close at night or closures during the day with a flagging operation. Again, that's through October of 2019. South Main Street, the Locust to Wayland will be closed for about 4 weeks coming up. The anticipated time frame is starting around September 10th. That's after the Ironman competition. That's to complete the pedestrian facilities that are being installed along County M. Basically bike lanes, sidewalks, and at the intersection of County M and Locust, there'll be pedestrian movements. There'll also be a pedestrian crossing midway between Wayland and Locust. So all that will be installed during the closure. There'll also be possibly a County M closure at the intersection of Liberty Drive and Thousand Oaks Trail. That's between the Verona Tech Park and the Liberty Business Park. We're looking at that could possibly be in September of 2018 or get moved to 2019, but that closure would be for installing signals at that intersection and then also installing turning lanes and making improvements to that intersection. Other than that, I wanted to remind everyone that we have a Tourism Commission meeting coming up Tuesday at 2 o'clock. That's all I have.
Thank you for the report. Other questions on the latter part of the administrator's report? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have my report before you, just as some updates. The downtown streets and the parking lots are done. The contractor is through his punch list items. We'll be finalizing, hopefully close out through September, early October for those two projects. The bike ped project, sidewalk's been placed on Locust between Bruce and County M. They're still working on the box culvert extension along with some road work, offline road work along M. And the old PB bridges, I believe, are done, supposedly opening August 17th. Darren, has there been any change on that, or is it still the 17th? Last I heard, they were still closed.
Roads open.
Okay. Haven't been down there. And then County M, the reconstruction, which Jeff just touched on, they've started the sewer work and will begin doing some of the water main work this week as well.
Thank you for your report. Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to committee reports. 10AC is Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At first, I'd like to make a motion regarding the payment of the bills in the amount of, totaling in the amount of $1,522,446.20.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Kemp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, these are pretty standard. One point of note on page 5, you'll see that there's a payment in the amount of, let's see, $107,489.58 to Farmer Savings Bank. That is a pay-go from Keller Burke that's going to be paid off annually every August for how many years exactly? The next
Till 2023.
Till 2023. Everything else that we reviewed this week in the Finance Committee seems pretty standard.
Thank you for the explanation. Comments, questions on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to pay the bills say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Kemp?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we will have 10B, Public Safety and Welfare Committee.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-918, amending titles 8, 7, and 11 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Verona, Wisconsin, relating to public safety and public health issues.
Motion by Alder Rieke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Touche. Alder Rieke.
The purpose of this ordinance is to modify existing municipal code provisions to treat vaping the same as we treat other tobacco products. The ordinance also establishes a sexting ordinance to allow for lesser penalty options compared to existing state law, which requires criminal felony charges for sexting.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 18-918, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Rieke.
For item 10B2, we took no action because we need further information.
Thank you. Anything further from Public Safety and Welfare?
That is all.
Thank you, Alder Rieke. Next up, we will have Plan Commission, and for that, I will turn it over to Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda for the Plan Commission reports is item 10C1, which is a conditional use permit for proposed UW Credit Union with drive-through service to be located at 651 Hometown Circle. The proposed conditional use permit would allow drive-through service for a UW Credit Union to be located at 651 Hometown Circle. The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on August 6th of 2018 and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval of the conditional use permit.
Thank you for the explanation. Motions from the council? Oh, Alder Carmen? Yeah, of course.
What was the issue with the signage for the credit union?
It's a long story, to be honest with you, but the short of it is when Farm and Fleet was approved, the intent of Farm and Fleet was to have those two large monument signs on the property. When Dairy Queen came forward, I believe in 2012, they requested a monument sign for that, even though as part of that larger sign package approval, Farm and Fleet had said there'd only be two signs in that area. Ultimately, the Plan Commission granted that sign. The concern raised by one Plan Commission member was, one, he still was kind of upset about that vote in 2012. And the second concern was making sure that the sign that UW Credit Union would have would be the same size as the Dairy Queen sign that's there today. After that meeting, we did pull the files for the approved Dairy Queen sign, and the proposed UW Credit Union sign would be the same size. So it's going to match what's out there, which was the concern that the one Plan Commission member had. But it's a long-standing concern of just what was initially promised by Farm and Fleet and ultimately what was approved.
Further questions, comments, motions? Someone want to take a crack at a motion? Alder Kemp. Excuse me.
Regarding resolution, resolution number R-18-039, approving a conditional use permit for a proposed UW Credit Union with drive-through service to be located at 651 Hometown Circle.
Motion. Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Second by Alder Rieke. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Before we get to the next item, could someone pass me a Kleenex? I'm having a bit of a sinus issue. Thank you. Mr. Sayer?
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 10C2, which is a conditional use permit for proposed Summit Credit Union with drive-through service to be located at 407-409 West Verona Avenue. The proposed conditional use permit would allow drive-through service for a Summit Credit Union to be located at 407-409 West Verona Avenue. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on August 6th of 2018 and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval of the conditional use permit. This conditional use permit would cover two properties. It encompasses the former Treads restaurant and also the house that is located just to the west of Treads.
You've heard the explanation. Questions, comments, motions? Alder Cole.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-18-040, approving a conditional use permit for proposed Summit Credit Union with drive-through service to be located at 407-409 West Verona Avenue.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the conditional use permit say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. Next item is 10C3, a certified survey map to create one lot at 407-409 West Verona Avenue. The proposed CSM would create one lot on West Verona Avenue. The CSM would combine two existing properties, once again that's the former Treads property and the house next door, into one lot and would help facilitate the construction of a future Summit Credit Union. The Plan Commission discussed the CSM on August 6th of 2018 and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval.
Thank you for the explanation. Motions, questions, comments from the council? Alder Cole.
I'll move approval for resolution number R-18-041, approving a certified survey map to create one lot at 407, 409 West Verona Avenue.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cronin. Further discussion, questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of resolution R-18-041 for the certified survey map, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. Next item is 10C4, a general development plan for a planned unit development in the West End that would allow for the construction of 28,849 square feet of commercial space. The proposed general development plan, GDP, would allow for the construction of 28,849 square feet of commercial space in the West End. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on August 6th of 2018 and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval of the GDP with the following exemptions. As part of that plan development process, we can grant exemptions to our zoning ordinance. Those exemptions that were recommended by the Plan Commission include 1, a front yard setback of 10 feet, 2, a drive-through can be located between the building and West End Circle, and 3, an artistic mural sign on a wall, 2 14-foot tall pylon signs, and a Market 5 monument sign shall be allowed. This is the GDP. The plan development process is a 4-step process. This is the 3rd step of that actual process. Ultimately, if this is approved tonight, the applicant will need to come back for what's called the precise implementation plan. And after that, if it's approved, then they could actually pull building permits to start construction on the project. So you will be seeing this again if it's approved tonight as part of that PIP process.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments, or motions from the council? Alder Cole.
Do we need to make a motion including the exemptions, or can it just be a straight?
I'd prefer to have the exemptions in there. We're going to start spelling those out in the future just to make it clearer from our standpoint as we track these in the future. It makes it.
Do you want me to list exemptions, or can I just say?
You can reference the
including
you can reference the recommended ones from the Plan Commission.
All right. I'd like to move approval for resolution number R-18-042, approving a general development plan for a planned unit development in the West End that would allow for construction of 28,849 square feet of commercial space, including the exemptions noted in the record.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Questions, comments on the motion? I'll say something. I think it's a really good development, and I'm really glad it's going to be in the city. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor of resolution R-18-042, approving a general development plan with the exemptions as specified, recommended, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. Next item is 10C5. This item, we'll actually deal with 2 different items on here. We'll have the annexation of the property that we're discussing, and also the potential annexation or pre-annexation agreement for the property as well too. So first of all, we have an ordinance approving the annexation of 199 acres of land located west of County Highway M and south of County Highway PD. The proposed annexation would add approximately 199 acres of land to the city. The proposed annexation is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The Department of Administration, DOA, has approved the annexation petition and has found the annexation request to be in the public interest. The Plan Commission discussed the potential creation of town islands as part of this annexation. That was one item one question they raised as part of this. The boundary agreement that the city has with the town does allow for the creation of town islands, and their creation is consistent with the adopted boundary agreement that we have with the town of Verona. The Plan Commission discussed the annexation at the August 6, 2018 meeting and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval of the proposed annexation, subject to the execution of an annexation agreement by the property owners. When this property comes into the city, like all property, it is zoned an ag holding zone that we have in place. That's what the property would be zoned, consistent with all other annexations that occur in the city as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kleinmeyer, who can briefly discuss the annexation agreement.
Thank you, Adam. And as I had indicated to you in a communication that I had, the annexation ordinance and the annexation agreement are effectively tied at the hip. We, as a city staff, would not recommend, in this instance, annexing land unless we have an annexation agreement. I would say that, you know, on our agenda, we have the potential to go into closed session, and to the extent that you all have questions, and if we feel that a closed session is appropriate, then we'll certainly make that recommendation. But I'm certainly comfortable making all my statements, at least preliminarily, in open session, and then there is the potential that we will not need to go into closed session. We have an agreement, I guess, and let me just let you know, we support the annexation ordinance. We support the agreement that I'm going to explain to you. These are going to be the two recommended motions that we would make at a staff level. With respect to the annexation ordinance, it would be motion to approve annexation ordinance conditioned upon city and developers executing annexation agreement within 7 calendar days of today. And then with respect to the annexation ordinance, would be motion to approve, with respect to the annexation agreement, it would be motion to approve annexation agreement subject to final review and approval by city administrator and city attorney. When it comes to the annexation agreement, I had sent a version of that to you all. The version that we've had further discussions with the developer since Monday, and it is effectively that agreement with all of the red line changes accepted. There were some language issues, language modifications that we made that didn't impact the substance at all. I can certainly explain those to you if you want, but they're not substantive. There is still some other information that we need to get in order to have a final agreement. We need the legal descriptions for the 3 separate properties. We need to identify what the amount of the letter of credit would be for some work that they would do preliminarily. And that's the reason for asking for approval of the document subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and attorney so that we can make the updates. Compared to the version that I sent to you on Monday, there is one substantive change, and city staff supports this change. And what it deals with is the timing of payments related to utility improvements that the city is performing within the County Highway M project. The agreement that I had sent to you on Monday indicated that all payments would be made by the developers upon execution of the annexation agreement. They had requested a change to that. The request that the developers made, city staff did not support, but city staff identified a compromise. And the compromise would be half of the payment would be made upon annexation, and then the rest of the money would be paid when the first development agreement is executed for each one of the different properties. And we felt that that was fair. The reason why we want the at least half of the payment to be made up front is the city is expending some costs right now related to these utility improvements, and these utility improvements are just benefiting these properties. I think from the developer's standpoint, it was a pretty significant price tag to have to pay immediately before they actually have any development occurring. And so that was the reason for the proposed compromise of half now and then half when, and to remind you, there are actually 3 separate property owners that would be annexing their land. 2 of the properties are LLCs that are operated by Mr. Dennis Midtune. And then 1 is an LLC that is North Neighborhood, and we've worked with them before. I'm going to say it's part of the family of Forward Development Group. And I think we felt that it was an appropriate compromise because we wanted to make sure that we at least got some money up front. That is the only substantive change from the version of the agreement that I sent to you on Monday. And with this change, city staff still supports the agreement, and it supports the annexation with the annexation agreement.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments, motions from the council? Someone must have something to say. Alder Kemp.
Nothing right now.
And, I mean, obviously, it is on the agenda for closed session, and if there are questions that you'd like to ask us, because it basically gets to the bargaining issues and the negotiations that we've had, it would be possible to go into closed session, if that's something that you're thinking about.
I'll start with a question. Were you here for public comment?
I did, yep.
Would it be possible to address some of the issues that were?
Well, I was here for public comment. I know Adam wants to comment. I would let you all know that annexation of all of the land owned by a property owner, even though it would be phased development, that is commonplace for an annexation. In other words, it would be a little, municipalities are not typically approached with, for example, okay, let's annex this 40 acre, and then maybe we'll annex the other 40 acre later, and then the property owners collectively want all of their land in at the same time, because once they get in, then they only have to worry about dealing with one annexation agreement, and then the annexation agreement, like we have here, deals with how all of the land will be developed. So I would let you know that there is nothing strange about the fact that they've asked for such a large chunk of land to be annexed at the same time.
Sure, I think just regarding the phasing of this site as well, I mean, as some of you know, or most of you know, is this is part of a closed stormwater basin, so as part of this, they're gonna masquerade the entire property, and as part of that, all the water in this kind of basically goes into a bathtub or a bucket, and it has to be then pumped west towards the dry tributary along Nine Mountain Road. As part of that, force main will be laid kind of through the entire property to accommodate that. So I think to Mr. Kleinmeier's point of, yes, this is typical, but also just for the size and the interesting challenges with this project as well, it needs to occur within the city. Otherwise, you'd be dealing with multiple jurisdictions for permitting and approvals on that. Regarding the houses on County Highway M, that we obviously have the expansion plans for on County Highway PD, the houses there. We have expansion plans of that roadway, and my understanding from Mr. Jacobson is those houses would be demolished in October of 2019. Those houses are needed just because they're in the way of the future expansion of that roadway. So kind of regardless of this development, those houses are up there for a short period of time.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the council? Any motions from the council?
I will make a motion and possible action regarding ordinance number 18-920, approving the annexation of 199 acres of land located west of County Highway M and south of PD, and discussion and action on the proposed annexation agreement among the City of Verona, North Neighborhood LLC, Integra Investments LLC, and Integra Investments 2 LLC. Do we want to do the second one with it?
Mr. Kleinmeier, could you clarify the motion you recommended?
Right.
Yeah, I think in this instance, we had both of those items identified under the same agenda item for purposes of the meeting because they were so closely tied together. You could make one motion. I think it may be might work to have two separate motions. And I would tell you that, I mean, you obviously can do whatever you want to do. I would suggest that if you're in favor of one motion, that means that you're going to be in favor of the second motion, and vice versa, because they are so tied together. The motion that, a suggested motion related to the ordinance would be motion to approve annexation ordinance conditioned upon city and developers executing annexation agreement within 7 calendar days of today.
Okay, so why don't, I'd like to try and do them separately, so would that apply for the first one under 5?
Yes.
Okay. So I suppose I could make a motion with ordinance number 18-920, approving the annexation of 199 acres of land located west of County Highway M and south of PD, and discussion and action of the proposed annexation agreement among...
Not that part?
Oh, not that part, though.
Yeah, I think it ends after
Right
the
there.
PD,
Yep,
and then you
PD.
add the condition about executing the agreement within 7 days.
Yes, with the condition of the agreement being executed within 7 days. And then do you want to do 6 too with it?
That sounds like one motion.
Yeah.
Is there, second by Alder
Right.
Ricky.
So, no, I think that's appropriate. You have a motion, you have a second on the annexation ordinance, and then you can deal with that motion first, and then we can move on to the a motion on the agreement.
Okay. Was that recorded properly in the minutes? Okay. We got a motion and we got a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 18-920, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Kemp, do you want to take a crack at the
Sure, why not?
second motion?
I'll make a motion with respect to resolution number R-18-043, finding that the expansion. Oh, go ahead. Brian.
That's a separate agenda item. We actually don't have a resolution or an ordinance number regarding the annexation agreement. It would just be a straightforward motion to approve the annexation
Okay.
agreement, subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the annexation agreement subject to approval by the city administrator and city attorney.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cole. Further discussion on the issue, or on the motion? Beg your pardon. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the annexation agreement, contingent upon staff review, as described by Alder Cole, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 10C6, which is a resolution finding the expansion of the Verona urban service area to include 1.3 acres of land on the southeast side of the city is consistent with the comprehensive plan and directing staff to submit a request to expand the Verona urban service area to include said lands. The city is requesting modifications to the city's urban service area, USA, to include approximately 1.3 acres of land on the city's southeast side. The property is located in the town and will be purchased in the future by the city for use as a future municipal well site. The Plan Commission discussed the amendment at the August 6, 2018 meeting and voted 6-0 to recommend for the approval of the proposed modifications to the city's urban service area.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments, motions? Alder Ricky.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-18-043, finding that the expansion of the Verona urban service area to include 1.3 acres of land on the southeast side of the city is consistent with the Verona comprehensive plan, and directing staff to submit a request to expand the Verona urban service area to include said lands.
Motion by Alder Ricky. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution number R-18-043 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Mr. Sayer?
I know that's it.
You've already left your seat, yeah. Next up, we will have Public Works, Sewer and Water Committee. Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 10D1, I'd like to invite our Public Works Director to speak on this item, which is a developer's agreement for Cathedral Point Phase 9.
Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This development agreement is related to the Purple Cow property that the city hopes to acquire for the new Public Works facility. The city is working with the developer to acquire the Purple Cow property, and if we are successful, the developer will own a portion of the property, and the city will own a portion of the property, as we've discussed previously. The draft development agreement will govern the land to be purchased by the developer, simply the land that would become Phase 9 of Cathedral Point. And that's a discussion, or the info I'll present for that. There are other approvals coming forward with the development and acquisition of the property that the council will see. So, and those will be coming forward in October of this year. And Mr. Klingmeyer.
If I can just add, this one is a little bit unique because we are working effectively in partnership with the developer. This is one of the things that will come before you in October would be an annexation ordinance. You know, we just adopted or approved an annexation ordinance and an annexation agreement for a different project. That project is, in its infancy. Here, we're talking about what would come to you in October with respect to an annexation would be land for the city of Verona that would be the potential future site for a new public works facility, but then also the other remnants of that land would be incorporated into an existing subdivision, the Cathedral Point subdivision. And that's why in this instance we're suggesting just a phasing development agreement like we've had with the other phases of Cathedral Point as opposed to some type of This agreement I shared with you earlier this week. At this point, we don't have any changes to the agreements. We are really working, step in step with the developer on this. The motion that would be recommended by city staff here would be motion to approve the Phase 9 development agreement conditioned upon the city and the developer acquiring the property identified in the agreement and subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney. In this instance, we do have some more information that we're going to have to insert into the document, and a lot of that is going to come as we move forward with the developer on what their plans are going to be for purposes of their Phase 9 of the development. As an example, one of the things that we're going to need to do is a certified survey map that divides our land from their land, from where the Purple Cow property is right now. Then I think they're going to come in with another CSM or possibly a plat that's then's going to create the lots that will be Phase 9. And we're also going to have to identify what the zoning is going to be for purposes of the additional, my assumption will be residential, but we don't know that for sure now. So that's the type of information that we still need to incorporate into this agreement. I think that we're bringing this to you now because we want, I think from the developer's standpoint, they wanted to have a comfort that the city understood exactly what was going to be happening, the council understood, and that, they wanted to get conditional approval of this document tonight because then that gives them a comfort that they can go ahead and do a lot of the other work that they need to do, for example, related to a plats or other planning for Phase 9. So that's why we're here tonight, just on this document, when the other approvals will come back before you in October.
Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I'm comfortable making the motion unless there's questions. I just would like it if those conditions can be restated, make sure that they are picked up in the minutes properly, and I know I cannot restate them, so I'm just going to reference those.
Sure. Motion to approve the Phase 9 development agreement conditioned upon the city and the developer acquiring the property identified in the agreement and subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney.
Ellen, do you have those? I do. I will make that motion.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alder Kemp. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving, conditionally approving the developer's agreement for Cathedral Point Phase 9, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Touche?
There's nothing else.
Excellent. Next up, we will move on to item 11, old business. This is discussion and possible action regarding an update on the Verona Area School District, the new high school project as it relates to the approved VASD development agreement.
I can take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
City staff did meet with the Verona Area School District leadership team and staff. Provided information from their meeting to staff. We would like to have the opportunity to go into closed session to discuss what they came forward with to us as far as proposals, and that would allow council to direct staff to look at possible amendments to the city's development agreement with the SVAD. I'm sorry, VSAD. Sorry.
Question for Mr. Kleinmeyer. Can we discuss the school's offer openly, and then?
Well, I would say this. I mean, I think the school's offer essentially then is going to relate to the third parties that we're also negotiating with here. And so I think one of the reasons why the school board has gone into closed session when it was discussing this issue, and it's an appropriate reason here too, is this isn't just a discussion that's ultimately going to impact the city and the school district. This is something that's going to impact the offers that are made to the third parties that we're negotiating with. And so from that standpoint, I do think it would be, I mean, I think it is appropriate to go into closed session. Obviously, that's a vote for the council to make, but this is different than, a few months ago when we were negotiating the development agreement only with the school district. Everything effectively related to public money that was going to be done, and therefore all the discussions that we had were at an open session.
Thank you. Alder Touche.
At this time, related to item 10A, I would like to make a motion to move into closed session. The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85(1)(e) for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin, I think. This is a roll call vote. If the clerk would like to read the roll.
Alder Cronin?
Aye.
Alder Journey?
Aye.
Alder Kemp?
Aye.
Alder Cole?
Aye.
Alder Ricky?
Aye.
Alder Touche?
Aye.
And with that, we are in closed session.
Did you say you're texting them?
Well, I'm just going to text her attorney. She requested that, but I think you should probably give it to
Yeah. All right, we are back in open session. We have not come to a decision. We're going to continue negotiations. I do want to take the point to thank the third parties for acting in good faith in negotiating. With that, we'll move on to new business, discussion and possible action regarding an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Middleton for building inspection services. Mr. McCorsky.
Thank you. During this period that the City of Verona does not have a building inspector, we reached out to the City of Milton to look at the possibility of using their services of building inspectors. Right now we have an assistant building inspector and a limited time employee that are doing the inspections. The assistant building inspector does most of the residential. Limited time employee does most of the commercial right now. Right now they're covering the inspections that they need to, but if we get a project that comes in that maxes out their capacity, we'll need to bring in someone short term. Also, if when either vacations or sick leave or things like that come up, we have this intergovernmental agreement would allow us to cover those inspections. It's based on inspection by inspection. It's not kind of a long-term, one project and they do all inspections. It's inspection by inspection. And they give a pretty reasonable cost for their services, a lot less expensive than other alternatives that we were looking for. For the short term, I'd recommend moving forward with the intergovernmental agreement to allow us that flexibility to cover all the inspections that we need to.
Thank you for the explanation. Alder Touche.
I got a question. It seems like as long as I've been on council, we've had inspector issues, not with their performance, maybe, but more with keeping staff. I mean, what are we doing to hire and retain inspectors? Because we're not retaining what we've got.
It's tough. Right now, there's it seems as though there's limited number of inspectors, and there's a lot more cities that are increasing the salaries to pull inspectors away. So, we try to provide information on the benefits that we're providing for the position, and a reasonable salary. So we're trying to look at how we can, if we do get an inspector, how we'd be able to retain that inspector.
I mean, it sounds like we just need to pay them more, because if other municipalities are paying them, I mean, I believe the last one we lost mostly was because of salary, which we just lost a crazy amount of experience when that person left. And I don't know how the personnel committee is handling this, but I really do hope they are taking this seriously, because it puts the city at risk. And I mean, just even thinking about public projects that we've done for ourselves that weren't inspected properly in the past, and I'm talking 10 plus years ago, that were, the parking lot at the library, for example. If that was inspected properly, we wouldn't be replacing it. God forbid something happens at some of our commercial buildings. All this work being done at Epic, everything else, and it's an important part of what we do. Not only protect our investments, but, our city entities. So I really do want to press on the personnel committee to take this seriously. Thank you.
Alder Cronin.
Just a question on the intergovernmental agreement. Is this a time limited, or is this open-ended, or how does this work?
No, I think it's basically to the end of the year. That gives us enough time to look, either find someone or come up with a more permanent solution.
Questions, comments, motions? Alder Touche.
I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Middleton for building inspection services.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cole. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Middleton for building inspection services, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. 12B, we have approval of operator licenses.
This would be a motion to approve as presented by the city clerk.
A motion to approve the operator licenses?
I'll make a motion to approve the operator license as presented by the city clerk.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the operator's license, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next up, we have adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Touche, second by Alder Cole. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
No. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.